Namaskar. Welcome to today's reading from Agastya, Purpose of Life. We will continue with the chapter Achieving Liberation. These are discourses drawn from Agastya Valipadu. Dr. Sudhamani will continue reading from last time, from where we left off last time.
Thank you, Akka. We had left last time, just to have a continuity. We'll be reading from that page. Humans, however, keep coming back through rebirths because of their bad deeds, undue attachment to body, materials, and life. This is what Sri Shankaracharya has explained many times. Still assuming human births, attaining the state of goodness, they are working to show the path to the world, and as Swamis are Mathadipatis. Such people also return again because of their attachment they have for the mathas and temples they have built. Some have attained the state of enlightenment and are called Paramahamsas. The moment they want to, they have the ability to return to the absolute without having to undergo rebirth.
So,
Because they have this.
So we will stop here. So this is what we discussed last time: is we as humans, that is the ordinary humans, we keep returning, birth after birth, like Shankaracharya said, constant rebirth and death. That's what we go through, and there is no end to this. And so he asked God to stop this through His grace. But what we are understanding through Valipadu is that knowledge, acquiring knowledge through Gnana Marga, is going to help us understand the underlying cause and effect of why creation, why we are created, and therefore find liberation to that. So what here Appa is also saying is, even Swamijis and Matadipatis come back. They don't find liberation because they are attached to the work they're doing. So even that is attachment. To go beyond that is liberation. So then he says, then there are those that are Paramahamsas, that they can go when they want, but they remain to help humanity. Please continue this, Dr. Sudha.
Paramahamsas, because they have this great desire to help people attain the same state that they have attained, they remain in the ether in the form of spirit and work through some people and remain without returning to the absolute self. This is also important because some people think that the liberation is the goal of life and they don't have to return. But great sages and Paramahamsas, these include all Siddhas, even Swamiji and other sages, they come only to help the suffering humanity. Just because they are on the earth plane doesn't mean that they are not liberated.
That is so true. See, in fact, that is one of the things that I finally understood as I was, reading Valipadu is, in the beginning it was always for me, I want to get liberated. But then I read this sentence from Agastya where he says, the Munis who can, return to God at any time have remained sacrificing that liberation so that it can help people. So then I was thinking, the greatest of the Munis are doing that. There is a reason for that. Because once you reach a certain level, and you start understanding the reason for birth and death and the cause of suffering, it is impossible for most of us or most of the liberated, Paramahamsas to just leave everybody and go, because selfishness is not part of spiritual life. Once you become spiritual, once you gain that stage, selflessness becomes part of yourself. And that is why Mahavatar Babaji, Larry Mahashai, Ramachandra, who's called as Babuji, Yogananda, Vivekananda, they all remain to help humanity. And so does Agastya. Please continue.
I just want to add, if possible, I remembered Lord Buddha himself told that there are some people called as Arihantas and some who are called as Bodhisattvas. He goes to the extent of telling that Bodhisattvas have to postpone their liberation just so that they can help everyone. That is the height of compassion, I feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they say the greatest charity or greatest good karma we can do is help other a human being walk on the path towards liberation.
Okay, let me continue. Examples: the enlightened Sri Ramakrishna, Jnana Yogi Vivekananda, Karma Yogi Ramachandra. All these people have the ability to reach Supreme Self, but have chosen to remain here for the welfare of the world. Some rishis who were formed during creation have completed their work and have returned to the Absolute. Me, sage Agastya, where am I present? If somebody has the doubt, where is he present? Which place? So sage Agastya Muni is telling, if I want to, I have the moon to return to the supreme power right now. I helped Parameshwara in those days. I pressed down mountains that were imbalanced with my feet and stopped them from tilting over. I captured the unruly river that could be tamed, that couldn't be tamed. I digested the demon Vatapi who tried to rip my stomach to come out. Whenever several gods asked, I showed them the way to get rid of their problems. I am now selecting and working through good people like you in Kali Yuga to help correct the direction the world has taken. When the entire world rests on the foundation of righteousness, that day I and other gurus like me and the Paramahamsas will all return to the Supreme Being.
This is a very, very beautiful passage, and I do encourage Brothers Rajesh and Ramachandran and Sister Geeta to, add discuss, because this is all about learning from each other. Nobody is a guru here. So, what is Appa Agastya saying? Appa Agastya is saying, during creation there were rishis. So, if we understand the concept of time as it is, expounded in the Vedas, we have the kalpas, then we have the 14 manavantras, then the 71 Chaturyugas for each Manavantra. Then what they say is for each Manavantra, there is seven Saptarishis, or the seven Rishis, which are Saptarishis in languages. So many of them, he says, returned, but he remained. So Rishis are the first who were created. We always thought that it is the gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara who were created first, but no. If we actually look at the way the lokas are, shown in our text, you come to Rishi Loka, below that is Devaloka, above that is Satyaloka. Satyaloka is the final, the face of the absolute. But Devaloka is below Rishiloka. So that is something new that I learned through Valipadu this time. So what he's saying is, me, sage Agastya, where am I present? He says he has the ability to return, but with all compassion, like all the other Paramahamsas, he has remained to help the humanity. In fact, there was one devotee who questioned me. He said, scholars don't believe that sage Agastya is immortal. No, the whole idea is, what is immortal? They are talking about a living person not dying. That is the idea of immortality. But that is not what sage Agastya, we cannot confine him to that mortal frame. We are talking about consciousness or energy, divine energy that can manifest in a human form. And that is very true of all the gods also. See, when we understand, again, going back to my favorite example of understanding everything in terms of consciousness and frequency, we understand that we cannot confine anything to form. These are all energies that can assume a form for the sake of human beings, but they're not necessarily confined to a form. So that is why we see Agastya right from the, mentioned from the Rig Veda in the present tense. He gives us slokas in the Rig Veda. He has a samvada with the Lopamudra in Rig Veda. Then he continues appearing in all the different Vedas. And we are talking about thousands and thousands of years between each, Veda and the Upanishads and the Puranas. He's constantly there. Then we hear about him as present in Sangam literature. And now we know that he works through a lot of people in Kali Yuga, which was how Agastya Valipadu came. And we are also very blessed to have Brother Pedro from Thailand, who is a guru in his own right. And it was when I was talking to him and understood what he was doing, I realized how works attributed to Appa Agastya actually came into existence. See, people think that, okay, these were books written by Appa Agastya. And they say Kalaripaya 2 and Silambam was taught by Appa Agastya. No, that did not happen like that. We are talking about the concept of how the Vedas were given. The same way the Agastya Valipadu was given through a human being, but the consciousness was of Agastya. And the same way, he is giving Brother Pedro a new martial art form. And Brother Pedro beautifully explains how the thoughts come and he's guided and he moves and he writes it all down. So that is how divine beings guide. That is how divine work is done through humans. Agastya did not stand in front of somebody and teach them Kalaripayattu or Silambam. He did not sit down and write something. In the same way, you take the example of Mahabharata. What happened? Ganesha wrote it down as Vyasa was talking. But it is all giving us the idea that knowledge is prevalent. It's all over the world. And how we connect to it and how we download it depends on our connection with that divine source. Please continue.
Anybody else wants to talk about this?
Feel free, please.
I'll continue that. You too were born in this life because you had that one desire that remained attached to your soul to help others. The time for you to return to the Supreme will happen very soon. Once your work is completed, you can trip everything connected to the world and return to the Supreme Being the day you want to. Once you are gone, I will still need to continue my work by selecting people like you.
So this particular sentence, he is referring to Gajraj Swamigal, because what Appa Agastya said is he was a disciple in his previous life of Sage Agastya, and he had taken 10,008 birth, and this was the 10,008th birth. But he had the ability to return to, find liberation in his previous birth, but he had that one desire to help humanity. So that is why he was born and he was chosen to receive Valipad.
And
And
Akka will surely tell that it is written that it will happen very soon. I think it happened like that only, right? Akka?
Yeah, it actually, that is true. When he told us that, we didn't realize, because he told your work will only last for 3 years, and that was all there was. He started his work and within 3 years it was over, but we thought his work is going to be over. We never realized what Appa was saying, which is he'll actually leave this world. And that's exactly how it happened. 3 years later, he passed.
Let me continue. I will tell you this finally. Birth of a human is higher than that of godhood. There is a state of bondage between God and duty.
Very, very, very important.
Very profound. Very profound.
Because we always think, we do not take life seriously. We do not understand what a great gift we have as human beings, because we, having taken birth as humans, have the ability to change ourselves and attain liberation. But gods cannot do that, to say, because gods, once they've been, given a duty, they're bound to that duty. So that is why, when you are talking about God's blessing even demons or Rakshasas in Hinduism, we are actually talking about the fact that the gods cannot differentiate. If somebody calls with that kind of devotion and connects to their energy, they are bound to give it. They are bound to give that good. They cannot say, you're a bad man, I'm not going to give you this. So that is why we have the Puranas which talk about it over and over again, how the Rakshasas and the demons gained boons from God. So there is something very important that we can learn here, that each one of us have the ability to connect to a divine source and get some kind of blessings or something that we need, some positive energy that we need for a particular aspect. But more than all that, the most important thing is, why would we want to get anything if we can get liberation? Because that is the final end. We don't have to go through the suffering, keep asking for more boons when we can actually change ourselves. And the most simplest thing that Agastya says is live a righteous life, because that is the foundation. If you live a righteous life, you're not going to acquire more karma. Because what happens, you understand, you have your prarabdha karma that you bring from previous lives. You're going through it, but you understand why you're going through it. And that changes how you react. So which means you're not adding more karmas to yourself. You're debiting the karma account, but you're not adding more karma. So as you go forward and as you start living righteously, what is happening? You're not adding more, bringing in more new karma into your life. So what is happening? You're becoming free every step of the way. And how is this possible? Through Jnana Yoga, because unless we understand the why of cause and suffering, the cause of suffering and why things happen that they do, we will not change. I can tell you, oh, you shouldn't lie. But if I tell you why you shouldn't lie, you will be more careful about that. So that is what Apagastya is telling us through this.
Should I continue? However, for man, the only thing that is required are the actions that lead to freedom from rebirth. To attain that, one needs to become monastic or embrace the principle of being a monastic while being in this world.
So now this is another thing. He says to attain that, one needs to become a monastic, because the monastic in the previous, years, the olden days, they would go out into the forest. They are not touched by anybody. So the chances of acquiring more karma is reduced because they are not interacting. See, if you look at karma doesn't happen when one person is just there by themselves. It always happens with relation to another. It happens because of other events, other people, and other things. So monastics kind of freed themselves from all that. However, that is not, he says, to or embrace the principles of being a monastic while being in this world. So what he's saying is, in this current world, it is not possible for all of us to go and become monastics. So actually, this is the period of time when we have what is called the householder yogis. Because we are living in this world, going through the challenges, experiencing it, and understanding what we need to do and finding liberation. In fact, we are facing more challenges and being right in the middle of the life, we are actually gaining more, what you say, chances to liberate ourselves because we know how to react. See, monastic, for them to kind of debit the karmic account, it takes a longer time. For us, it's easier because we're facing challenges every single day. So we must always look at challenges and opportunities to go forward. Go ahead, sister.
I advise you all to understand the meaning of the universal form, that is Vishwarupa Darshanam, as expounded in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, either by reading or listening to it. All living things called gods, demons, humans, earth, insects, snakes, birds emanate from him and return to him. For this to happen, the great flood needs to take place. When that happens, the entire world and everything on the earth will return to the Supreme. This is the simple explanation of the cosmic law as I know. However, the question I declare was a big one.
So this is again, in fact, today after we finish this, we will end it because, the next chapter is again completely different and it's going to be a longer chapter. But we will talk a little bit about this. So what he's saying is, look at the universal form or the Vishwarupa. See, there is a reason why we have everything that is given in the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Puranas to us. Because we cannot understand concepts which are not, understandable by normal people, which is more like, in the form that is more like an idea, is harder to understand than example like the Vishwarupa. So what he's talking about is understand that there is the absolute and everything emanates from him and everything has to go back to him. So again, my favorite example is the dream. When we are dreaming, we are creating. So once we create, there's all these things that are happening in the world. And then when we wake up, it's all gone. So then we realize, oh, it was just a dream. In the same way, the entire creation is the dream of God. And when it ends, then we realize when we say it ends, we are talking about when we understand the whole whys and wherefores and reach the stage of realization of and become one with the idea of the absolute, then we understand none of these things are real. But for that to happen, it takes a long time. Then he also says, for the entire creation to end, the Mahapralaya has to take place. So we do have our Hindu religion talking about the different types of pralayas. The Mahapralaya is also called as Brahma Pralaya, where the entire universe goes back into the absolute, where creation stops for a moment and then before it starts again. But that again is, if you look at all the different stages of the time span that we have understood, is a long period of time. But that's going to take a long time. But meanwhile, we can look at this in a very philosophical term or a spiritual term way and understand that Mahapralaya can happen within us. How can that happen? That can happen when we become one with the absolute after getting rid of all the bad and good karmas, reaching the stage where we understand the divinity that we are the souls that are emanated from Brahman, and we are going back into Brahman, and then nothing else becomes important. So, these are all just examples that we have received and have been given through all our religious texts. But we can also understand that simple things, we just have to watch how we live, how we act, how we think, and thereby start gaining divine wisdom and connect to the absolute and find total revelation. Find that Mahapralaya within us and return to the absolute and get off this merry-go-round of births and deaths. So if you have anything more to add, Dr. Sudhamani, Rajesh, or Brother Ramachandran, please let us know. We will continue, but otherwise I'll stop the recording and we can continue talking. Okay, so thank you everybody, and we will continue the reading for the next week.